Tune into this week's On.net, where I have my good friend Matt on from Sentry talking to us all about their brand new .NET MAUI SDK for error handling and monitoring. So tune in. Welcome back, everyone, to another On.net. I'm your host, James Montemagno, and today I'm really excited because I have my good friend Matt Johnson Pint on. How's it going, Matt?
Pretty great. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic because you and I got to talk last week, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to have you on to talk about this brand new .NET MAUI SDK from Sentry for error handling. It's bananas. It's amazing. So you are over, actually not too far away from main campus, actually. You're over in the Puget Sound area, correct? Working at Sentry.
Yeah, I was at Microsoft for a long time, so I lived close to the campus and recently went to go work for Sentry on their .NET SDKs. And like one of the first things we were talking about was like, well, what's new in .NET? And I'm like, everybody's really excited about MAUI, so maybe we should do something there.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I'm really excited because I think that maybe a lot of people might be brand new to Sentry. I've known about Sentry for a long time, but can you kind of give like what Sentry does and like why developers would like seek out Sentry?
Sure. So Sentry is an error monitoring and performance monitoring product. We mainly focus on errors. Performance is something that we've added into our product in recent years. With the MAUI offering right now, we have errors and we're getting performance coming into it. But basically the idea is like, like think about your MAUI app that you're writing. It's running on people's mobile devices. Well, what do you do when it crashes? How do you know about that without them calling you and being upset, right? Like you as a developer should know about those errors before your customer is upset about them. You should be the first to know. So Sentry offers a whole platform for this. We have SDKs for .NET, for JavaScript, for Python, for Ruby, for Rust, for PHP, pretty much everything you can think of. Sentry has an SDK for it, and people have been using them for years and love us. So we thought, why not add MAUI into the mix?
That's awesome. Now, because you've had like a C# and .NET and ASP.NET Core SDK, and this one's brand new. What makes this SDK special? Because it's not, you mentioned that it's a new SDK. So what makes it special and stand apart from like the other .NET SDKs?
Sure. So like as an example, one of our other very popular SDKs for .NET is our ASP.NET Core SDK. So if you're an ASP.NET Core web developer and you just take the .NET SDK, you would have to wire up a lot of things on your own to get the kind of instrumentation that we give you out of the box when you use our ASP.NET Core SDK. So it's very similar concept with MAUI. We could just say, well, we have an SDK for .NET and do what you want with it. But that doesn't give you all of the things like the events that MAUI will raise and surface to you, or the device information that MAUI will raise and surface to you. And it also things like just dealing with how do you catch unhandled exceptions on different platforms. Turns out that the standard error handler, app domain, unhandled exception handler doesn't necessarily work correctly on all platforms. So you have to put a lot of little hacks into your application if you're trying to do it yourself, or you can rely on our research and expertise where we've done that for you.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Now, one question that some people might be asking is like, what types of exceptions does it handle? Like, does it handle, like if I'm down in iOS and Android code, like framework code, my code, like is it all everything? Is there a limitation to what the Sentry SDK can catch, I guess?
That's a really great question. So Sentry has for a while now been in the mobile application space. And we have a very well put together native SDK, both for Android and for iOS. And the nice thing about the way that we can work with MAUI is we can actually bundle those SDKs with our .NET SDK. So for example, if you are a .NET developer and you're just like, great, I can now write for Android, and you're not thinking a lot about the fact that actually there's Java code and there's native C code underneath that. What happens when something crashes in those layers? If all you're doing is watching stuff in your .NET application code, you might not catch that exception at all, or you might get a cryptic like wrapped JNI type exception. So we can actually do better because when you use the Sentry SDK for .NET, for MAUI, you're also getting the Sentry SDK for Android underneath the hood. So if you get a native crash, the Android SDK will pick up on that and send that up to Sentry along with your .NET SDK and even link everything together properly.
That's very cool. I'm really excited about that because I get that question a lot is like, hey, I have this, native library for iOS and Android. Can I bring it over? And the answer is like, yes, totally can happen. So it's cool that Sentry is leveraging that functionality to add in those native things. And I think that's a big selling point to what you're talking about is like, hey, you're not just getting, a certain level of stack tracing, you're getting the layers deep because
Right.
I use a lot of third-party integrations. You think of analytics or you think of ads, for example, like those, who knows what those things are written in under the hood. Deep down, you want to get everything. Now, Matt, I understand that you have a live demo that you're going to do for Sentry. Is that correct?
Yeah. Let me show you some things.
I'm excited because I was like, all right, we got like, so many minutes. And Matt's like, I'm doing all of it live. Awesome. Here we go.
Right.
Let's do it.
So first of all, if you just like Google or Bing search for .NET MAUI Sentry, and make sure you get .NET in there, or you'll get some interesting other results because MAUI is a relatively broad topic. But you'll land on our marketing page here, and I love all the little art our marketing department puts together. But we've got you can sign up if you want us to like spam you with some updates and stuff. But probably what you're looking for is this. This is all you need to know about how do you use Sentry with MAUI. You're probably, if you're writing in MAUI right now, you're probably familiar with like a create MAUI app as your startup. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. But all you really have to do is say use Sentry right here and provide what Sentry gives to you when you sign up is what's called a DSN. And that's how we identify your account. It's not a private key, so it can be hard coded into your text here, or you can pull it in through configuration if you're wiring that up. And if you click our documentation link, you'll go into there. But I want to show you just a little bit more because I've already got some really great screenshots just on this page. It'll show you what we can do. So like say your application threw a null reference exception. Boom, we get your null reference exception and the entire stack trace. And you don't even have to think about how did that make its way to the internet? What happens if I've got 10 million of them coming through? How do I filter them out? How do I organize them? How do I sort them? All of that's handled by the Sentry platform. Even like PII scrubbing and things like that. We will have performance monitoring. This is sort of a coming soon for MAUI. We have it in all of our other platforms, including .NET in general. But you will start to see lighting up in MAUI different graphs like this that will show you load times. How long did my application take to load? How long did my controls take to render? If there were any delays in my application, how long did those take? And it'll help you find those bottlenecks, which is really
That's
cool.
awesome. I'll have to have you back once that's all in there for sure.
Yeah, this is actually from the MAUI demo we're going to do today, where I threw an exception. Well, slightly different because this is an NRE, but you'll see it in a minute here. And you can actually see the whole life cycle of all the events that fired before then. So I knew that when I clicked the button, that's what fired that event. And you may be able to find that from a stack trace, but maybe not necessarily. And you may not know the timings involved with that stack trace. So we can pick up on all that for you. And then lastly, like we give you a lot of device data. We actually give you way more than this, but I didn't want to flood the screenshot. So I'm going to do one of these and you'll see how that works. Okay.
Oh, cool. This is great. I love it.
So let's open Visual Studio. I'm on Visual Studio 2022 for Mac. This is the latest preview edition, which you need for MAUI apps. And all I've done at this point is file new MAUI application. So this is the MAUI app builder that I was telling you about before. And if all I do is put in here .use Sentry, and it really can be anywhere in here. And I've already pulled out a DSN that we're going to be using from here. I have to do one more thing, though, of course. I have to go pull in the Sentry NuGet package. So let's go browse for the Sentry MAUI is what you want. And you've got to click pre-release because this is a preview. We will eventually have the full version. And we're going to add that package. And so it's that one, and that's it. It is adding. And then we're going to build.
So that's pretty cool. Like it's literally, now are there additional APIs besides the just use Sentry stuff? Is like if I wanted to do custom events, yeah, I can do more. So like this is the basic. This is like you're going to get all this stuff for free by adding literally 2 lines of code.
Yep. Cool. There's a whole bunch of other options you can set, but also there's a static class that's just Sentry SDK. And from there, there's all kinds of methods. You can capture an exception manually. You can write other messages. You can send performance information. I started this in Mac right away, but so we're going to run this. See how it's clicking the app?
Boop, boop, boop. Beautiful.
Okay. So let's do something a little more interesting. Sorry, I switched here. I'm going to throw an exception here.
This isn't what my code normally looks like, because I usually like to add, you know, I usually like to add to a counter and then display it and then crash it immediately. So that's usually
I'm just
good
going with
stuff,
the boilerplate out of the box file in the Maui project.
which is perfect.
Yeah. And this time I'm going to deploy it. Well, I'll go ahead and deploy it back to Mac again so we can see that it's running on Mac Catalyst.
And you said this supports all .NET MAUI platforms, right? So you're running on Mac Catalyst, but you could be running iOS, Android, Windows, anywhere, right?
It does. We will have the native SDKs for Android and for iOS. We're trying to figure out still if that will work on Mac Catalyst. We're at the moment we don't have a native SDK for Windows.
Gotcha.
The preview release only ships with the native SDK for Android, so iOS is one of the next things we're going to have before we GA.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So I'm going to
it's kind of
an
early sneak preview is really what we're seeing, which is great.
Exactly. So you saw that crashed, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I get a Mac OS like problem report, which isn't
beautiful.
That helpful, really. It doesn't include the stack trace or the other information I need. It's got a bunch of cryptic stuff, but Sentry has that. So we're going to go to Sentry now, and we're going to pull open our Sentry dashboard, and boom, there is the exception that I just threw. And notice it says it was unhandled. So if I click it, and you'll see that it came from Mac Catalyst, and it has the release of our application. It was just 1.0 because it's right out of the box. Tells you what version of .NET it's running under. There's the breadcrumb, as we call them, that shows you when the exception was thrown and what was happening before then. I can see all the things happening before then.
Whoa.
Lots of stuff. We'll even give you events from custom controls. So basically any event that's part of any control that's in your hierarchy will show up here. So you can see all the stuff that was happening that led up to that.
I want to take a second, Matt, too, to like actually look at that, because that's actually something really unique, which is like you just added that line of code, but what Sentry did, right, is it linked deeper into the .NET MAUI framework. Like you didn't tell it about the button, you didn't tell it about the scroll view, but you actually are getting this really in-depth information about .NET MAUI stuff, right? Which I think is really, really neat coming through. That's kind of really neat that I think that is kind of standout. You know what I mean? When you talk about .NET MAUI optimized, yeah, it's looking like it.
Yep. And we only send this stuff with actual exceptions that are being sent. So even though it's capturing it sort of in memory in the background, if everything's working fine, then that's just discarded. So it doesn't have a whole lot of overhead. Cool. These events are firing anyway, and we're just listening to them. So yeah, so let me just show you one other thing. So like we capture all this other stuff, but like say the device was out of memory and that's what caused the exception. You would know that here. Say you were having like your thread pool was exhausted, like some of that information would come through here. All the device information, including like what the battery status was, if it was in this case, I'm plugged in and I am charging, so it's true. Screen resolution, time zones. I love time zones. And you know, we have all this extra information, like what assemblies were loaded. And if you're really trying to troubleshoot like a rare exception, especially one that's not caused by you, but maybe by a dependency of yours, this is really useful information, and it can actually help your component vendor, whoever you're pulling this information from, work with you to diagnose the issue. Keep in mind also that a lot of the controls that are part of these mobile platforms, they're native controls running on the device, and they may not be written in managed code. They may be written in Java. They may be written in Objective-C. And even though we've got wrappers around things to make them expose more to MAUI, if you don't have this information, it can be really, really difficult to debug a crash.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I want to show you one more thing before we call the demo done. Let's deploy the same device off to an Android emulator. So I'm going to do, let's see, debug, start without debugging. I could debug. Visual Studio will trace into there, but then I would catch the exception in my editor. And what we're really trying to see here is what would happen in the wild, right?
Got it.
I've got this Android emulator here that it should deploy to. There we go. So here's the same application, and boom, it crashed, right?
Gone.
So that's what's happening when your end user hits something in your app that's crashing. It just crashes. And then like they get that. And that doesn't really help anything. So the point is, again, we come back over to here and look at our issues, and we should see some of these coming in. Now, this was actually marked as a regression because I've been using this project in Sentry before and raised this exception before, and I had marked it resolved. Well, it came back. So Sentry is saying, hey, not only is it an exception, but it's a regression because it's something you've seen before. And here I can see it's from Android. Again, I get all the same information. I get all the same device information, what model phone it was, everything.
That's awesome. I think that, especially on Android, right, there's just such a diversity of different devices out there that, the same line of code could work on your Huawei device, but may not work on, your Pixel device or vice versa. You know what I mean? And or Samsung device are so unique. So it's really cool to get all of that information into a singular source. Well, one question I have for you really quick before you dive deeper in documentation is, could you link this to other sort of tools you're using, maybe like GitHub, where all my source code is there? Is that possible?
Yeah, one of the great things about Sentry is the platform is rock solid, and we have integrations for all kinds of things. Like you can get pages when you're getting new exceptions. You can get integrations into your GitHub stuff. So like, for example, if you just Google Sentry and GitHub, you'll see that we have ability to augment your errors with commit data. So like when you have this these issues raised, you can include like your last commit hash, and then we can link that back to your GitHub website, so you can see like when an issue was fixed and when new code was introduced. We've also got full ability to like link GitHub issues, so you can raise a new issue on GitHub whenever an exception comes in, and you can have this happen automatically. And none of this is new for Maui. It's just something that we've had in Sentry for a long time.
Part of the platform. Always love to see the integrations. Very cool. Well, what else is there about .NET Maui?
All I really have left to show you is just our documentation that we're still working on. This is probably the best place for finding out about stuff. We've again got the installation instructions. This will always be up to date with the latest version. And then as there's additional options, you'll see them in here. But like you were asking about, like, how do I do additional things in Sentry? Like, how do I capture additional events? How do I like add additional context, for example? So like there's all kinds of samples in here about things you can do with the Sentry.NET SDK, which is part of the Sentry Maui SDK. It inherits from there. So any of this documentation that we've had for our .NET platform, it still applies within the Maui world.
Very awesome. Matt, I love it. This is great. Thanks for showing it off. And I love when demos work, file new, adding stuff, seeing stuff come in live. It's awesome to see. And of course, I'll get all the links from you, Matt, so we can put them all down in the show notes below. What's the best way that you're looking for, it's in preview. Are you looking for feedback? How do people give feedback to Sentry about the SDK? I know there's a lot of people brand new to .NET Maui.
Sure. So on the landing page, we've got some links. So that's a good place to find it. If you can't remember, you can always just Google .NET Sentry Maui, and there's some stuff in there about how to contact us. But we're an open source first company. So you can reach out to us on GitHub, on the Sentry.NET SDK repo. We have a Discord channel. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Matt Johnson Pint, just like it shows in the video. And we're always available. We also have a full first class sales and support team that will work with you if you're a commercial customer. Also, I don't want to forget to mention this, but Sentry is free for open source. If you are running a project in open source, we have a Sentry for open source program, and we can get you a free account. But even if you're not free, we have starter accounts, and it's pretty easy to try it out.
Very cool. That's a super important thing to shout out, that is for sure. Well, Matt, thank you so much again for coming on to On.NET. And again, we'll have you back for not only some new stuff with .NET Maui, but also get a full overview of ASP.NET Core 2, because I know there's lots of people interested there. And thanks again, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. And thanks to everyone for tuning in to this week's On.NET. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button wherever you're at on the internets. Super appreciate it, so you stay up to date with all the latest .NET content. So until next time, I'm James Montemagno, and this has been On.NET.